Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're doing part 2 of how to grow the best tomatoes. If you didn't watch my first video, I will link it down below for you. But today we're going to be doing a little bit of maintenance and a little bit more care, and I'm going to show you kind of what the next step is. So in the first video, we got them planted in. I gave you some tips and tricks of what starter fertilizers to use to really get them kick-started. Now we will be trimming some of the suckers. We will be trimming some of the bottom leaves that are closest to the soil. And then we will do our first application of tomato tone, and then finally we will get them staked up with our tomato cages just to give them extra support while they start growing. But when we planted them, they were so little, and now they're already getting so big, so I'm super excited to show you what they're looking like. So let me turn my camera around and we'll get started. Okay guys, so you can see that all of the tomatoes are growing in. The strawberries are growing in as well. I told you guys about why I had to plant this here in our last video, but they're doing great. But you can see that, look at how big this tomato is compared to when we first planted it. And this is just a 2-week growth. So they're doing amazing. And they are just a little overgrown in here. We are going to be trimming them back, like I said. So let me turn my camera around and I'll give you guys a closer look at how this is gonna go today. Okay, so here's one of our cherry tomatoes. And the first thing I'm going to be doing is just removing some of these bottom little stems that are growing in. We just don't want any spent energy or any energy going to these. So I just trimmed that off. So now we have some of these lower leaves. And the thing is, when you have these lower set of leaves, these are basically just some old leaves. We're going to be cutting them out just because they're kind of spent. And the older they get, the less efficient they become at photosynthesis. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just cut a couple of these old bottom leaves, and this way it also allows for better air circulation in your tomato plants. And so now these are the little suckers I told you guys about in the first video. So they're basically these little growths that come between a branch and the main branch or main stem. And if you allow these to grow, basically your tomato plant, they're gonna get super bushy, and they will be, these will try to become a tomato plant on their own. So they're just gonna be taking away energy from your main stem. So what you do is you just come in and you just pluck all of these little guys out. And some of them are actually big. So let me just pluck these out, and don't be afraid. Remember, tomatoes are pretty resilient. They're super growers, so you're not gonna be hurting your plant. Okay, so this is just one of our regular tomatoes. And again, this one's not quite as tall just because usually the cherry tomatoes are the faster growing ones, at least in our garden. So this one also has little suckers, and I'm gonna just trim off anything on the bottom. And once again, we're gonna just take out the bottom leaves. Those are kind of spent. So I'm just gonna leave that, and then you'll just have a nice canopy of leaves at the top. So this one looks pretty good. Okay, so here's another cherry tomato. I'm gonna remove the suckers. Look at this big sucker right here. Look at that. Isn't that crazy? So they do get really big. So that right there is a whole sucker. Do you see how it's starting to grow its own it's trying to grow its own tomato plant. So just get rid of that. And then we will cut just that bottom one and this bottom one. And here's another sucker. And you really have to just check on your tomato plants every few days, just because they're such vigorous growers that they will continue producing these suckers all season long. And especially when they're healthy and you're feeding them, it's just in their natural instinct to put out these suckers. So anyways, let me turn my camera around, and then I'm gonna quickly get both of these beds done. Okay guys, we got them all trimmed up and we removed the suckers. I know that's always a hard thing to do, to sacrifice those leaves, but you really have to. And I promise you that's just gonna give more energy to your main plant. So don't worry and don't hesitate to do that step. So now we're gonna be doing our first application of tomato tone. And now because these are already established plants, we're only gonna be doing 3 tablespoons to each plant. So let me turn my camera around and we'll get all of these fertilized with some tomato tone. Okay, so again, we're just gonna be doing 3 tablespoons and you're just gonna do it at the drip line. So I'm just kind of eyeballing it just like that. And then I just gently kind of work that into the soil. Just like that. Perfect, and then I will get these watered in afterwards. So let me turn my camera around and we will do the rest of them. Okay, so we got them all fertilized in. So the next thing I'm gonna do is add my support to our tomatoes. So for the cherry tomatoes, if you remember, I planted them in each corner of our 2 beds. So we have 8 total. And I'm gonna be using these 8-foot long stakes for the cherry tomatoes, and I like to just kind of butt them against right up the corner here of each bed. And the reason why I like to use these stakes for cherry tomatoes is because they tend to grow a lot taller and less bushier than the other tomatoes. So last year we had, I think we measured one of our cherry tomatoes at like 10 feet long. It was crazy. So I'm just gonna shove it in all of the way like that. That's perfect. And then I'm gonna start training it to start growing up against this pole here, or this stake. And then what I like to do is I'll use this garden Velcro, and I'll just cut like a little, oops, hold on. That was a fail. Okay, so I'll just cut like a little piece like that, and I'm going to wrap it against, or I'm going to wrap the tomato plant around this pole, and that's just going to help it train to grow all the way up vertically. And as it starts to growing, I'll add more of these pieces to make sure that it's going nice and straight. So let me zoom in so you can see what I'm going to be doing. Okay, so I'm basically going to just gently move our tomato plant up against the stake, and you are bending it a little bit, but it's okay. As long as you don't do it too hard, it's not gonna harm the plant at all. And then I'll just wrap this around the stake and around the stem, the main stem, and I'll just leave it just like that. And I'll check it in like a day or 2, see how it's going, and I might just wrap another one around just a little bit lower and make this a little bit tighter. We'll just see how it's looking, but basically it's just gonna start, it kind of grows like this and it'll just start growing all the way up. So that's what I do for all of our cherry tomatoes. Okay, so for our main tomato plants, I'm just gonna use a standard cage just like this, and I'm going to just push it down pretty low like that, and that's all that there is to it. are the tomatoes. So we got them all watered in. They're all staked, and yeah, we'll just keep you guys posted on how they do. But I'm super, super excited for this year's tomatoes. All right, guys, well, that's it for today's project. I hope that was helpful. I also hope you saw just how big the tomatoes are in just 2 weeks, and they're just gonna continue getting bigger and bigger. So I will be adding the tomato tone again in 2 weeks. So they recommend apply 2 times a month for, or until August. So that's what I'll be doing. And every other week, I'll just alternate watering them with, or feeding them the fish fertilizer that I talked a little bit about in our first video. But yeah, we'll keep you guys posted throughout the season on our tomatoes, and we'll also be posting to our social media. So if you have any questions, or if I could answer anything for you, just comment down below and I'll make sure to do that. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Look at these gorgeous peonies blooming. I just wanted to show you guys really quick. Isn't that so pretty? We just picked up so many. I'm so excited to get them planted. I'm gonna be adding the biotone.